The New York Rangers master plan has been revealed as Chris Drury has spoken out on his vision for this team, and Mike Sullivan has spoke for the first time as Rangers head coach and what he plans to do with this roster moving forward. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, be sure to go down below. It's free. Hit that subscribe button. And again, you get to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the Rangers. But lots to get into today. Let's dive right into it. Mike Sullivan has officially been introduced as the 38th head coach in New York Rangers history. Press conference just wrapped up minutes ago at the time I'm recording this. I'll get this out as soon as possible for you guys with everything that's happened. But we have some insane quotes from not only Chris Drury, but of course, Mike Sullivan and what they're planning to do with the team moving forward. And let's dive right into what Chris Drury started with today. He opened the press conference by saying, "I truly believe Mike is a premier coach in the National Hockey League. The second Mike was available, we quickly and aggressively pursued him. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm very excited to be partnering with Mike." And I think the biggest thing here is we knew that Chris Drury wanted to act fast, and he wanted to have an extensive coaching search. But of course, now we know the real truth behind it all, that as soon as Mike Sullivan was available, that was his guy. And obviously, he reset the coaching market in terms of compensation, and now he is the Rangers head coach. And I do like that they have their head coach pretty early, because a lot of teams are starting to hire their future head coaches right now, and at least they can start to work together now through the summer, start early in May to get ready for next season, because I do think there's big things coming for this team. And Mike Sullivan finally, for the first time, spoke as New York Rangers head coach, and he said that he's got a ton of respect for the players in that room already, and the talent that they have. The opportunity to work with a group like that certainly excites me, and I think this is part of the reason. We'll get to some of the stuff about Pittsburgh in a second, but I feel like this is some of the reason as to why he left Pittsburgh. I think that he sees the Rangers as a really good opportunity for himself to get this team back in the playoffs and maybe competing with some of the talent that the Rangers have within the organization and on the team. So I think it's a really good opportunity for both parties, honestly. And Sullivan on how he'll work with Chris Drury. And one of the things, this is what he said, this is a direct quote, "One of the things we've talked about is the importance of a relationship between he and I. My experience has told me that the relationship between the head coach and general manager is really important." So I wonder if that's a bit of a shot there to Kyle Dubas. But at the same time, I think this is true. We saw a disconnect between Chris Drury and Peter Laviolette, and that is the reason that Peter Laviolette is no longer here. One of many reasons, that's for sure. But I think this is a huge thing. I'm glad that he said this. They all have to be aligned. In order to win the Stanley Cup, you can see it league-wide, in order to win the Stanley Cup, the management needs to be aligned with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff needs to be aligned with the players, and the players need to buy into what the coaching staff is selling, essentially. So I think the Rangers have a really good opportunity to have that synergy next year. So it's going to be an exciting season, I think, with Mike Sullivan at the helm. I have to be honest. And a lot of people might roll their eyes at that and be like, yeah, it's the same old. I don't think so. I think Sullivan's going to, give this team a boost for sure. And Sullivan on the Rangers coming off a disappointing season. Like I just mentioned, a lot of you might be rolling your eyes saying, it's going to be much of the same next season. But he said, "I can't really comment on what's evolved here in the past. All I can speak to is what we can potentially build here moving forward." And I'm really excited about what he said, they're going to be building heading into next season. He said, what he's learned about some of this, the best players on this team from the Four Nations face-off, because obviously he was coaching Chris Kreider, Adam Fox, just to name a few. There's a couple more as well. What I've learned is that they're fierce competitors and that they have an appetite to win. So absolutely fantastic stuff from Mike Sullivan. And so the players too, I think they're going to be hungry to get going next year, some of these guys. And they're going to want to have a bounce back season. And a lot of people might say, they're not going to want to, like they've been paid already, all of this stuff. I think a lot of the top guys on this team do actually want to be Rangers. I've talked about it a lot. I think that they want it to be under their own terms. But heading into next season, Chris Drury's locked up. You have a brand new head coach. Play to what this organization is giving you, or you can leave. That's basically what's happening at this point, whether you like it or not. And I think that as an organization, you should have that instilled into the culture, right? Like if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here if you really don't want to play under these circumstances. The Rangers needed to build that that culture into the organization. And I think that it might be a good thing moving forward. I honestly do. I've said it all season. So, again, in terms of why he left Pittsburgh, I thought this was interesting too, in terms of maybe calling out the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know if there's too much of that, but he said, I'm not going to get into the reasons why we parted ways in Pittsburgh. I'm so grateful for that opportunity that I had there. We had some success there during that time, obviously back-to-back Stanley Cups, some great success. And I had the opportunity to draw from what that looks like, and I hope to bring that here. And he said a lot of that he said he's virtually spoken to every single player on the team, on the Rangers so far. He's reached out to every single one to talk about, how he envisions working with them. Again, he said he looks forward to working with Adam Fox, who he got to know by obviously, coaching him in the Four Nations. I think he's an elite defenseman because he is. Has he dropped off a bit last year? Maybe, but I expect big things from Adam Fox next season. So I think that's very exciting. And, again, from the outside looking in, because now he's the Rangers head coach, but he's never coached the Rangers, of course. So from the outside looking in, he said they've been knocking on the door to a Stanley Cup for a number of years now. Every time we've played against this group of players, they've been fierce battles. So, he looks very highly upon this group, and he thinks that he can get something done here. And is it a Stanley Cup next season? I don't know. They're going to have to continue to retool, and they got to fix the back end. They have to fix the defense core, but I think Chris Drury has a fantastic opportunity this offseason to move some salary out and rebuild that back end, and this team can be, once again, a playoff team. I think very quickly. We haven't seen a whole season of JT Miller feeling good and playing with the Rangers yet. He is going to be a difference maker next season. You still have, Brendan Othman, Brett Berard, these young guys that I think that are just scratching the surface of what they're going to be, and Mike Sullivan is going to, I think, be able to bring it out of them because he's done that before with young players in Pittsburgh. Peter Laviolette has never been known as a coach that can get, stuff out of young players. So I'm excited to see what Mike Sullivan does. I honestly am, and I think Rangers fans should be too. And he said, I've grown a ton of respect for the players that are in that room. The opportunity to work with the group like that really excites me, or certainly excites me. So he's ready to get going. I'm glad that he got in early, that him and Chris Drury can now work together, and see what they want to do, their vision for the team. Mike Sullivan can have some input in terms of defensemen they should go out and get that'll work better within his system. So I really like this. I really like this move. I like everything that they said today. They have to put it into action now. And I want to wrap up with one last quote from Mike Sullivan, but I do want to emphasize that they're saying all the right things. They have to take action next year. That's when Rangers fans will start to believe again. But I think everything is in place to have a really good season next year. I honestly believe it. And if you're a Rangers fan, I'm not going to tell you how to feel. Everyone has their opinions. But I do think that there is cause to feel good going into next season. Now, again, I want to wrap up with one final quote from Mike Sullivan. He said, this is more about the philosophy that he's bringing to this group and managing the younger talent. And this is the biggest thing. I think this is the biggest thing going into next season. The defense core and the young players on the team, right? What they're going to do with him. And he said that I think it's really an individualized process. Love it already. I don't think that you can paint every player with the same brush. Everyone is different. Part of coaching, or the art of coaching, I guess, is trying to figure out what the daily recipe is that's best for the player. Sometimes it's time in the American Hockey League as a young player. Sometimes it's time in the National Hockey League, depending on the types of minutes that the player can play. What I will tell you, is that I think it's important that every player earns their opportunities, that no one's entitled to an opportunity. So what that tells me is, coming into training camp, if you're Brett Berard, if you're Brendan Othman, anybody at this point, Gabe Perreault, there's going to be a lot of attention on Gabe Perreault. Your spot on the roster is not, given. Nothing's going to be given out. You have to earn it. I like that they're going to go into training camp with this philosophy, with this mindset, because it's going to create healthy competition and everyone's going to be fighting for spots. So I love that. And if they're not good enough, you go down to the AHL and you develop into an NHL player. Why? That's not a bad thing at all. That is a step in the right direction, instead of throwing guys into the fire immediately, and then when they don't work out after 2 weeks, we trade them. So I do think that this is a step in the right direction. Let me know what you think in the comments, but it seems like the Rangers master plan has been revealed, and honestly, I'm loving it. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more fallout, some more comments from Mike Sullivan, but it's time for both of them to get to work, Mike Sullivan and Chris Drury, and put their words into action, because that's when Rangers fans will start to believe again. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.